2, we are live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
And we're back. Too far away. Oh, let's scare the folks. There we go. So
I gotta get my hair cut.
I got my coif the other day.
No,
So,
I gotta get mine done here in the next day or so. And that'll be my summer cut.
The way you have hair. Like I don't. I got a fryer tuck. I got a little bit, going around. Really, this is all CIG'd. So at the end of the day, there's nothing there. So I just have to make it look
wear
good.
that's what ball caps for.
That's why baseball caps. That's right. Or being Jewish, that's where we wear the beanie.
I was wondering why that was always there. I guess that was the reason why, right? Little gum, and stick it there, and it doesn't fly off in the wind.
That's that. And we notice that grass doesn't grow on a busy street, so we like it. And my beanie has a propeller, so it's multifaceted. I don't think they make those anymore.
Oh, I'm sure you could order them on Amazon. I'm
going to have one next week then. So, well, enough about my bald spot. We have a fantastic artist joining you today, don't we?
We do. We have, we have lots of great artists, but true. You know what? Everyone's different, and we've said that before. And we have Gary Crawford here today from Toronto, who's, he's a graduate of BFA. He's got honors degree from York University, and he actually was a politician for a number of years, which I won't hold that against him. But it did make him, I think people in Toronto are very appreciative of his his time on council, because he actually helping promote the arts within the community and helping Toronto become the arts center that they are today. And Gary's is a unique way of painting, kind of pointless, but not. We're going to talk about how his process goes, and his paintings are very, very unique paintings. And he's got a number of a great show coming up this year at one of the galleries. We'll talk about that, and you can see his work. And let's do it. Yeah, let's
bring him in.
Let's bring Gary in.
Welcome to the show. I'm going to disappear so you guys can actually talk about art and enjoy your interview. We'll see you guys at the end. Cheers.
Thanks, Stephen.
Wow, good day to you, sir.
Paul, how you doing?
I'm having a good day. Well,
excellent.
Yeah. Well, it's been it's good. No, we can't complain, and weather's good. Not freezing to death anymore.
No,
and
it's
actually, you're probably cooking a little bit down east, are you not?
Not too bad. We got the air conditioning, which helps, but it's been an okay summer. But it's Canada, so we take it, we enjoy it while it's here.
You got that right. So you're I guess a great painter of Georgian Bay and some of the. I won't say it's really the north of Ontario, but you're in the Group of Seven country a lot. In some of that area.
Yeah, a lot of the works I have been doing over the last 3 or 4 years really came out of the pandemic. I was up at a friend's cottage up on Georgian Bay for a couple of days. We went out some boating, did some sketching, and from there I just decided to work on a whole series of paintings, primarily based on the water, land, sky images, symbolism of lakes and water, and semi-abstract forms. And that's what I've been kind of working on over the last couple of years. As you, of course, had mentioned, I was a former politician, a City of Toronto councillor. Didn't give me a lot of time over the 12 years to actually do a lot of art since I have retired. I've been focusing full-time on my art, and, I'm starting to produce a really good core of artwork that I'm quite pleased and impressed with at this point. So looking forward to our chat.
Well, we'll start with an image, and we'll have Stephen bring up. Oh, we got ourselves what happened here?
Cloud over water. Yes.
No, it's gone kind of blue scale. Something's happened with our image there. No, we got an image issue. I don't know, Stephen. You
So
got
that
something.
image actually, it's hard telling from the original. It is fairly white.
There we go.
So there we go. Okay.
Well, let me just go back to screen one. There we go. For some reason, we had a blue scale version of it, which was a whole other thing. It's like looking through this blue fog. Yeah, these kind of reminded me a little bit of, like, where did your influences come from, Gary? Do you know this painting style that you work with?
I mean, it's this painting style has been, I've been working on this for many years. I guess the best way to describe my art, and you're looking at influences of artists who have influenced me, as I do with everybody. So take a little bit of Monet, a little bit of Van Gogh, a little bit of Jackson Pollock, Canada's Tom Thompson, of course, and William Turner, the wonderful landscape England, and his sense and essence of light. So you combine all those artists, again, very influential on me, and that's kind of what happens, I guess, in some of my work. They're very vibrant. They're very quick gestural movements of color, of form, of light, of line, and they all come together in whatever form. Each individual painting is different. Some of them I can create in 4 or 5 hours. Others take upwards of 20, 30, 40 hours. It all depends on the complexity of what I'm trying to achieve, but a lot of it is it's spontaneity. It's looking at the work and kind of pulling something out of it that I really try to focus on as much as possible, but also at the same time being visually stimulating and wonderful for the viewer. If you own one of my works, and many people have owned my work, I do own my works, they can't look at it enough. They can constantly go into it, come out of it, go around it, enjoy the colors, the lines, and all of that. And I hear that many times from people who actually own my art.
Yeah, we can see that for sure. Yeah. So do you work from sketches? And then how rough are your sketches that you work from?
So this series that you'll be showing today, I really work from similar to what many artists do, group of 7 artists out on site. So I go to location and I'll do a quick sketch. Usually they are on pastels. I actually do a lot of pastel work. And it's just a very quick impression, I would call it, or interpretation of the landscape. I probably do them in 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, bring them back to the studio, have a look at them, see what inspires me, and try to do, and not recreate the sketch, but recreate the essence of what I saw that particular day. So the one you're looking at, Cloud Over Water, I've done a few of these, very similar. Again, the cloud with the landscape and of course the water. The gestural strokes, 3 or 4 minutes. I put on paint very quickly within an hour, 2 hours, and I look at it. I let it just sort of sit, and it evolves, it changes. I look at different colors. I look at different, splashes of color. I really look at it. You mentioned, Paul, the pointillism. These aren't pointillist paintings, but I do take from pointillist understanding of color and how different colors react to each other. So it's difficult as it is on an image like here and probably on somebody's screen or phone. When you look at the originals, you can almost go inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, and really get a sense of how these colors interact. And as you slowly move away, that's what creates the vibrancy. That's what it creates, like a movement, I guess. Sparkling, sometimes people have mentioned some of my works, but it's a whole variety of different kinds of techniques. These are particular ones are oil on canvas, and I just enjoy doing them. This particular one, Cloud Over Water, probably took 20, 30 hours to do, where some of the other images you'll show did them in 4 or 5 hours. It all depends on what I'm trying to feel at the time.
Right. Yeah, you can see the layer buildup, and I mean it's very impressionistic in style. But I like the fact that there is some focus through the form shapes that are being put in. So it's been a design page that it is abstract when you get in close up on it, but it has, like you said, when you stand back from them, they pull together. Yep. Your eye kind of fills in those spaces, but you get that nice vibrance that's happening between the colors that are juxtaposed to each other, right?
I try to anchor my works on something realistic. Some of them go very abstract, especially when you look at certain parts of them. Sometimes it looks like a landscape. Sometimes it really veers away from the image of what I'm trying to do. But I always try to create that essence, whether it's through the color, whether it's through the splotches, or sometimes I drip paint. but it's trying to capture that essence. And this was just to give you an example. So this was a boat trip. A good friend of mine, Robert, and I took out by his cottage up by Point Barrow, which is on Georgian Bay in Canada. And we went for a quick boat ride for about 45 minutes. He was driving and I was just sketching madly. All of the water, and these sketches happened literally in seconds. Brought it back to his cottage, worked the sketches a bit, brought the sketches back to my studio, and just the essence of that afternoon. We spent 45 minutes on the water. I wanted to recapture that kind of essence, and I think that's what these paintings do.
Yeah. No, and I really love the title of this one. It becomes very informational for me. I start understanding and saying, yeah, I can see that happening. I can see this cloud pouring into water, which is a really nice play on words. There's just that understanding. So you go through Georgian Bay and you have those clouds that'll come along and rain on you, then blow away, and then rain on you and blow away. You have those kind of days.
And the name of this painting was very specific. Again, when I was looking at this work, when I was going through the different reiterations, this took me a long time. I was working on this for a number of months. It became very abstract. I almost lost the painting a few times. And as it started to pull back, go forward, pull back, it still kept the essence again of you got the water, you got the landmark, and you have the cloud. But what was really intriguing is as I was working on this, it looked like the cloud was actually pouring into the water. And I put that out there in the name to give people a sense of what it was. And you'd mention that because if the name wasn't there, you'd look at that and it may be, you'd sort of see a cloud, you'd sort of see the water, but actually calling it cloud pouring into water gives you that. And you look at the focal points. So when you're looking at one of my artworks, I invite you in. So when I talk about cloud pouring into the water, you look visually into the center between the intersection between the cloud and the water, and you sort of see how it starts to flow. And the name actually encourages you to actually begin that experience of enjoying the canvas while you're looking at it.
Yeah, you start searching out where that cloud is and understanding. You're right. It's doing that. And, some people, oh, that doesn't look like water. But when you start saying, oh, that, pretend that this is the water, right? And then the other one is these are landforms and that's a cloud. And they're very Miro-like, very simple shapes that are they're kind of almost cut out and put on the page. And you're trying to find, I guess, different ways of communicating. There's this vision, but it also becomes audio where people are talking about it, and you have people side by side. Can you see the cloud? Can you do those? I mean, I'm envisioning what people might be saying when they stand in front of your works. A lot of works now, you go into a major gallery and people spend literally seconds in front of a piece of work and move on to the next one. They don't spend a lot of time looking, but I think yours probably is quite engaging with a lot of them. They actually probably would spend more time searching out the imagery and understanding about if they've been in that area before and experienced those kinds of things before. And yours it's moved them to a different level of experience. They've all experienced getting wet. And maybe some have experienced being in a boat, but giving them this is kind of that little shiver down your back a little bit feeling where you kind of go, oh, I've been there. Maybe I've been there before. Maybe I've seen that before, or maybe I should look for that. But it's this is a lovely piece. But
so this one, here's an example. So this is the first piece. So I've got probably now 8 or 9 canvases that I've accomplished. I have a few more I'm working on, but this was the beginning of that series. Again, Georgian Bay, Point Barrow. This painting I created probably took me 4 or 5 hours, 36 by 48 inches. I just slapped the paint on very quickly. And I looked at that, and if you look at it carefully, you can actually see a lot of the raw canvas underneath. So this was a painting that capture that essence fairly quickly. Again, just with the interplay between the water and the sky. You notice the blues and the yellows. Tried to play with different kinds of colors, but I really wanted them to bounce off between the water and the sky. And of course, the anchoring of the landscape. But this was again, 4 or 5 hours it took me to accomplish this. I didn't have to go any further than that. Not all my paintings happen in 4 or 5 hours. Some of them take a lot longer, and they're much more thicker and impassive. But again, trying to give this essence of the landscape, of the water, of the sky. And, just picture yourself driving on a boat fairly quickly, blinking your eyes a couple of times and just trying to capture that image. That's what that day was to me. The sketch I would have done probably in less than a minute as we were driving. So I just wanted to have that simple essence of the land, of the sky, and of course of the water.
So do you work with a minimal palette, or do you have a full palette of color you work with when you paint?
I look at them. I usually have a full palette. I mix a lot of colors. So when you're looking at this particular canvas, I spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of thought trying to come up with the right color. So I'll do a lot of mixing. There's, basic reds, basic yellows, basic blues, but then I look at the different kind of blues, whether it's a turquoise, whether it's a whole variety of different blues and the impact that they have. So I spend a lot of time really focusing on the color. Once you capture it, you put it onto the canvas fairly quickly, but it's my process is very spontaneous. I don't think a lot. Sometimes if I think a lot, that could hurt the work, but I really try to be spontaneous. But I spend a lot of time really trying to figure out what that right color is and what the feel of the color I want to create on the canvas is.
Yeah. It's important, I think. I've had a number of conversations on social media lately here, and we're talking about the moment that you're there. So they're actually painting. Like I've done some plein air painting, and it's like, do you feel the wind? Do you feel the water? Do you feel the day, the time of day, the heat, this cold? And you're trying to see that makes the moment, that makes that complete feeling if you can convey that. Thompson was very good at doing that. He could convey a number of the days. You knew it was a cloudy day, rainy day, whatever, cold day. And I think he did a series of 28 or 29 little panels, one every day for a whole month. Just the seasonal changes in the country, and you put those panels together, which is sort of like with your show. You got a show coming up, one of the galleries in Toronto.
Yeah, Elaine Fleck Gallery in Toronto,
Okay,
Queen Street West. All of July. So if you are around Toronto, all of July, you can go to the Elaine Fleck Gallery and actually see these works.
That'd be excellent. So when you see this body of work, you can almost get a feeling of the kind of day that you were in, because you'll see actually probably more than what we're going to show here today, a little bit at the gallery. So is it a solo show as well?
It's a two-man show. Started off last year as a group show. Sold the one work I put in there, which was great. And again, Elaine was generous enough to offer me a two-man show, and hopes that'll turn into a one-man show sometime next year. But again, it's a great opportunity to get these works, and really see them. You can always come to my studio and have a studio tour, but getting them out to actually look at them, view them, is something I'm quite excited about, actually.
Yeah. No, it's a great venture. It's a great way of going. I mean, especially when you've gone through a stage of working. You've painted anyway, probably, maybe not quite as much as a council member, but now that you sort of retired from, I hate the word retired, but you probably just moved on in career. You leave one and you move to the next level. And I've done the same. People say, "Oh, you retired?" And I said, "Not really." I said, "I probably work more now than I've ever worked when I had a day job as an artist, because there's 24/7." And you just completely get absorbed in the things you love. And I can see this one has just got this, you want to be there feeling. And I think it's that joy of that. I don't know, the use of complementary colors for sure. Like yellow, blue, that's zinging there, and that beautiful light sky, like that. Just the yellows in there.
And when you mentioned just the complementary colors. So when you look at this work, you got the yellows, you got the blues, you got the turquoises, and you look at the top how the turquoise reacts with the yellow. You go down, and I recreate not the same yellow, but a different little bit of yellow. But it's just sort of that vibrancy of jumping all over the place. And again, if you look at the work, or you want to get more detailed into that, I use complementary colors a lot. So you'll see reds and greens, especially in the land. If I want to really bring things out, I do a lot of oranges and blues, and all those kind of complementary colors, because that gives it this, as you mentioned, the zing, that sort of get things sort of excited. The electricity, if you want to call it, of one of the paintings, and very intentional. And but it's when you mentioned when you were looking at when I was in the boat that particular day, may not have or may have seen the sky of that color, but when I brought it back to the studio, I really looked at, just quickly throwing splotches of color, splotches of things on there. But anyway, that's what I try to recreate, is just that fun feeling of somebody just enjoying a day out, in Canada's north, and that's what I think I try to create. But you got to have fun, you got to enjoy it. It really you still have to anchor it. As much as I have done abstract work, and a few of the works that you may show here today tend to go a little more abstract, I really want to anchor it in something that people recognize and they know what it is, even though it veers off of what it may be. But it's the essence, primarily of what I'm looking for.
Yeah. But you've left people room though to bring their own vision into it. You've given them a starting point, Gary. Like it really is saying, this is a moment, but it changes. The light and the direction, and they place their pieces of work in their home or their office, and they kind of go, "Oh, it looks different a little bit today." And I think as you become more familiar with the piece, you start searching other things out in it that become the reason you like it. That piece of work grows with you, and I think good work and great work lasts a lifetime, and it's one of those things that it gives back every day. That's what I say. And there's a painting, you say, oh, it's too expensive. It says, you know what, nothing in your life other than your family is going to give back like this every day to you. When you walk in that room, I mean, yes, you can have a photograph or a computer or something to look at, or TV, and see other things, but this is very different.
No, it is. And I'll tell you a quick story about my creative process. So when I'm working on a work, and you're probably the same, I'm focused on it, I'm working on it, I'm trying to figure out everything that needs to do. And it could take, as I said, hours, it could take days, it could take months. Once I have completed an artwork, I just go through this transformation where I actually stop looking at it as the artist, I stop looking at it as the creator, and I start looking at it as the viewer. And I go through this mental process. It doesn't take long, but usually once I've signed the work, then I can start looking at it like you and everyone else and starting to enjoy what I had created. But I'm looking at it as the viewer, not the artist. So I'm not critical anymore. I'm not trying to figure things out. I'm just enjoying what I've created. And sometimes, I kind of like, wow, this is, and I almost forget, after a couple of years, how I've actually created them. And I'm enjoying them just like everybody else. But that's, it's a neat little process I go through to enjoy my works as a viewer as opposed to the artist. And I'm sure a lot of artists have that same feeling.
Yeah, you get into a zone.
Yep.
That you're kind of one with the piece, and you're right. You all of a sudden it's time to quit, go for supper or something. But do you keep regular hours in your studio, or how does that work?
Again, I spent almost 20 years as a city councillor working in that field. I had a great time, did a lot of work promoting the importance of the arts across the city, across Canada, increased arts funding. So I dabbled, did what I could. Since my retirement, I'm really focusing primarily on my art. Again, I try to get into the studio, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. I'll be taking off shortly in the summer, July, to go on another trip to try to find the works that I need to inspire me for the next group. But it's more time is great. I spend more time on my works, and you may be the same, Paul. 75% of one of my artworks, time-wise, is looking, is feeling, is understanding, and I do about 25% of actually painting. Because ideally, the painting part of it happens very quickly. Once I'm inspired, once I get that, sense of what I want, but it's usually a process of looking, of feeling, and understanding, and really living with the work. And I don't know what a finished work will look like. Sometimes I have a sense, and then you just go for it. I also have the challenge sometimes of overworking on an art piece. If you come into my studio, I'll show you a number of ones that just went a little bit too far. My wife drives me nuts, or she gets really frustrated sometimes when she'll look at a wonderful work of art I've created, and it was like, is it done? I'm going, oh, it just needs this little bit more. She comes home from work at the end of the day and it's gone. And it doesn't happen that often, but my style and how I create could potentially have this one as an example that you have Georgian Bay number 4. I thought I'd lost it. I don't know what was wrong with it. Maybe it was the color in the sky or in the water, but it wasn't working too well. So I decided just to shelve it, put it away for a couple of weeks, brought it back out, and started attacking it, and it came about quite nicely eventually.
So your work builds on layers, right? One layer on top of this. So you work with a base layer, then you build your subsequent layers on top of that.
Yep.
To build the brightness and the aspect of the energy, I guess. And most of this series is based on water and land and sky.
Yep.
Basically, as a landscape painter, in a horizontal format. But it really is about this relationship between sky and water. Like you really see that essence of the day in the sky, and especially in this one, this nice light, the light colors in the sky here. And there may be clouds there that you might see if you squint, and there might not be. And it's not this bright blue sky. And that's what I'm getting at. And it's a little Monet-like, and you feel, some of the bridge series that he did, London and the towers, they the skin through the fog, you almost get that feeling that you can see stuff, but you can't see stuff, and
yeah. No, you hit it right on. I mean, I'm looking. I mean, is it a cloudy day? Is it a bright day? Is the water? I mean, is there a lot of wind because there's a lot of is the water moving? I don't prescribe to say it is. It is really what you want it to be. I try to, again, it's just the splotches of color and how they interact, and it's the simplicity of the waterland and that always anchored with the landscape in the back, but it's that interplay between the two of them. Some of my paintings, not necessarily this one, but sometimes, and when I'm trying to figure out a painting, I'll flip them upside down. I'll turn them back. So when I'm looking at trying to figure out, sometimes the land actually turns into the sky. Sometimes the sky turns into the land. There's actually one painting I've done, you may be showing it today, that I was looking at it in one way. I flipped it upside down and went, that's it. I figured it out. But anyway, it's a whole variety of different things that I attempt to do to create that finished product.
Yeah, no, and I do like when artists do that. The sky doesn't always have to be at the top of the page.
No,
and that's nice when you can look around. Maybe it's more than a reflection, or there's different things happening. So I think that happens with an artist when you sit there painting for so long on a series. You say, how do I create a little variance in what I'm doing, but maybe if there is monotony in something, how do I remove that? What is exciting about that? How do I make that more exciting? Now, if this was me trying to paint all these little marks, I feel like sometimes it's like drawing. You get into rhythms, and all of a sudden I try to, they all start connecting together, and all of a sudden you end up with a whirlwind or something. And yours are kind of nice because they still give you a surface of the water, but they're not turning into dotted lines creating a wave, or there's texture there, what I was saying, Gary, but there's not like when you put dots and lines together, they create rhythms and like a drawing. But anyway, it's and I think it's a variance of thickness of line, weight, I guess the color balance that's happening as well.
Yeah, and then one of the other techniques I use too in trying to get a sense of, and it has to do more on the tonal side of it, is I take a black and white photograph of it, and
might have to just turn your phone off there a little bit.
Yep, I know it's my daughter calling me, so I'll have to give her heck afterwards. But she's persistent sometimes. But anyway, I take black and white photographs of my work, and that really gives us, and take away the color, you take away the vibrancy, and that gives you a sense of, is the work actually focused, is it actually working? And that's how I can tell, especially on a tonal side, whether or not the work. I mean, this is a very simple, there's not a lot here. You have the image of the land, waters, and sky, but tonally it needs to work too, and you don't notice that in the colored works, because sometimes the color overtakes that, but the underlying success of a lot of my works is that black and white tonal focus, and trying to make sure that they all work well outside of the color, because the color can be quite consuming.
Yeah, this one feels very Van Gogh-y to me. There's a nice brightness, that's deeper blues and yellows and sky, and it's very Yeah, I can see definitely. When you mention that, I can see the influences there a little bit. Not so much you copy him at all, but he had a great color sense and a great eye of design. Whether he's painting irises or something from uh, when he was in the hospital there, he was doing a bunch of those pieces. But I think it's nice to have a base where you can go back to. I mean, when you can say, this has maybe influenced me a little bit. And they're not saying 100%. They say, I'd like a little bit of that, take that. And you go to Monet and say, yeah, I like something he took there. And do you find influences by any Canadian artists or American artists?
Oh, absolutely. I'd mentioned Tom Thompson. So when you're looking at some of my heroes in art, Tom Thompson, Lauren Harris, a lot of the group, Riopel. A lot of my works, not necessarily this series here, but I do a lot of drip painting. So I have experienced the Riopel, well, Jackson Pollock, of course, when you're looking at that. Group of Seven, huge influences for me. Tom Thompson's probably the one, when I first saw my first Tom Thompson, I just went away. So they're very much in landscape artists. At, a lot of the Group of Seven, and this is work people, these artists have been working like upwards of over 100 years ago, but trying to bring it back, trying to keep that freshness in the landscapes and with color is what I do. Other artists I had mentioned when you're looking at influences, William Turner, the great English landscape artist. I look at light. So one of the things we haven't touched upon yet, Paul, we got the color, we got the form, we got the design that I do in my works, but it's the light that I really try to bring out. Not in all of them, but in some of them, I actually pull out the sense of the ethereal kind of spiritual light that is very much evocative, but it's a part of a lot of my works where I look at trying to create this sense of being, sense of light. And some are more pronounced than others, of course, but some of them really look at. But when I'm looking at Turner and the work that he created and some of his watercolors with that ethereal kind of spiritual light, that's a huge influence in a lot of the works that I actually do.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the light, and I think Harris was great. And it was very, that from the heavens, you have that feeling of this iconic mountain scenes and some of the things that he did. And Casson was as well. And AJ Casson was one of my favorite painters. And he could create those magic moments, those iconic moments that you go, oh my gosh, like it's just like you want to be there, you want to experience, even though he did kind of paint those early years in 1900s, mid years, early 20s.
Yeah.
And this guy had sellout shows in those days. I mean, it was tough in those days. Not that many galleries. Today we got lots of galleries around, probably more artists than galleries can handle.
Yep.
Sure.
And the other, I just mentioned the other Canadian artist. I used to be lived about 4 or 5 minutes away from Doris McCarthy in Scarborough. So I had been down to her studio, had tea with her a number of times, and just that influence of. And here's an example of somebody who decided to, later in her career after she retired as a teacher, to become an artist and to continue being an artist, but really focusing on that. So a lot of my works are influenced by especially her iceberg, her works that she did up north, and the spirituality and that ethereal kind of, there's something bigger, there's something grander that we all strive for. Lauren Harris, as he simplified his works, work after work after work, to the essence of what he was trying to capture, which is that sort of spiritual essence of being. That's very much part of my works too. I look at trying to get a sense of what's it all about and where do we move from here. And that's, part of, some of the comments I make in a few of my works as well.
Yeah. It's tough when you go into that, north of Toronto area and painting in Group of Seven country and not creating replicas of Group of Seven paintings out there, right? You want your own your own touch of what is the northern landscape. What is that feeling in that moment today for me, which is very can be quite different than what some of the Group of Seven were working on in the day. They were basically the rough, rugged north and the beauty of it, and figuring out the palette color to get that across. And so artists going into that country today, it's overwhelming for a lot of them because they see all the color in the fall. You just get, there's just like, oh my gosh. And everything that come out, they said, well, it's kind of like this guy or that guy that painted a Thompson or a McDonald or whatever that was there, right? And you try, how do I find my own voice? How do I find my own vision of what I see in that country? I mean, you go to the prairies, it flattens out a little on you and the colors change a little bit. So it helps a little bit that you can paint your own way. But you go into country that's been dominated by these major artists, that went into the country and took huge risk and chances to convey their feelings, right? And it wasn't success overnight.
Well, and that's what I'm hoping I've done with these works that I create here. I'm not recreating the group of seven. Love them, but I'm Gary Crawford. I'm trying to create something, and what I want to do. In the 2020s, 2030s, or whatever that'll end up being. But it's my own interpretation. It's my feel. It's my color. It's my country. I mean, if it's working, Canada. I'm actually just starting. My next series will be. I've been to Costa Rica a number of times. So I did a lot of sketches down there. So my next series will probably be a group of Costa Rican landscapes, and they're totally different. You're looking at the ocean, different colors, skies are different colors, so they'll take on a different feel. I don't know if they'll look Costa Rican, but they definitely won't look necessarily Canadian. But it's just the essence of where you happen to be, what you want to, where you've traveled, and what you want to, portray in the works that you're just trying to recreate. And they're a journey, as I've said before, and you've mentioned, my works are a journey. I invite you in. That's usually through the color. I'll pull your eye to, the center, to a certain part of that. And then I start moving you around. So when you're looking at this painting, pulls you in initially when you're looking at, you got the horizontal landscape, you got the yellow in the sky. But really what intrigues me and the viewer is, as you're looking at all of those little white splotches of waves in the water, and they sort of go back up into the sky, and it's a circular motion that gets you round and round and round. You'll find that in a lot of my works where I want to get you in, I want to get you out, I want you to move you here and move you there. And that's the essence of, trying to create something, spectacular or vibrant. And it goes beyond just the landscape at that point, and that's where it gets into what is this, and then it's the feel. It's not about what I'm trying to portray, but it's the feel of that landscape or wherever you happen to be.
Yeah, you get the reflection on the water from the sky and the sun that's happening, and it does create kind of a focal point a little bit. That the yellow and the blue is more intense to that center aspect,
absolutely,
center area. So there are focal points in your work. I mean, it's not like it's just a page full of dashes,
Oh no, they're everywhere. They pull you, and they're intentional. I mean, if you would looked at the quick sketch that I did on this painting, again, I probably whipped it off in 10 or 15 minutes, slapped color on very quickly. It probably would have been a bit of yellow up top, a little bit of blue on the bottom, and then from there you just start adding. It's sort of this layeral kind of context of putting things on top of each other. And here's a good example of one of the paintings that I spent a lot of time. This is probably one that I thought I'd lost a number of times, but it was the light. I was trying to capture the essence, or the ethereal, spiritual light, which is in the top left-hand corner. And this is a painting, unfortunately, it's hard to see here, but it's a very thick impasto painting where the light, the whites and all the colors underneath that are probably 3, 4, 5 millimeters thick. It's a very thick,
wow.
And it's on wood too, so it's quite a heavy painting now. But it's trying to recreate that essence of light shimmering across water.
So you mentioned wood. So is that different to paint on those different substrates? Different feeling than painting on canvas and changing over to wood for whatever reason? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do a lot of works on wood, but when I was looking at this particular canvas, or not canvas, but sketch, I wanted to create something a little bit different. And I thought, and I've worked in wood a long time ago, so I did have a piece of plywood that I took out, gessoed it really well, and just wanted to have a different feel. This painting, for whatever reason, I sensed, and sometimes when you start a painting, you have no idea why you're doing it and what you want to accomplish out of it. But I had a sense that, no, this needs to be on wood, because it's going to have a different feel to that. And not surprisingly, when you're looking at the thick impastoed finished product, it probably wouldn't have worked as well on wood, just for the physicality of trying to ensure that the the canvas or the wood or the paint doesn't move too much. Because it's on wood. But it was just, again, it was one of those, I had this intuitive sense that it needed to be on wood. I look at the finished product that I have created and I went, yeah, that makes sense now. And it's a little different. I don't know if this was on canvas, if it would have had the same impact or effect.
Yeah, your impasto may have tended to move and crack eventually somewhere down the road, where wood's a little bit more stable. I can see that. But this palette is really different. I mean, you've introduced this, I guess we'll call it the pinker tones, tones with, I mean, there's a different light vibrance that are happening here, almost down to a pointillist dot system. So your lining dots have changed from your other pieces, and this one has a real different feeling. There's a jumping joy in this one a little bit. I think it's the vibrance of 2/3 of the page at the bottom is really popping. I mean, and yet you still have some anchoring at the top. And
the anchoring at the top was, I mean, this was a work that very easily could have been almost abstract. I intentionally wanted to look at the top. I wanted to anchor. I wanted those trees to look and feel like trees. You almost got a sense that is there really water there, because it's hard to figure out what it was. But the anchoring, once I anchored the trees up in the top corner, it was a landscape. And from there, it gave me the ability to be a little freer in the use of color. So these aren't natural colors, the yellows and the pinks that you're going to see on water. I just wanted to give my sense of color and vibrancy, just to have fun, just to sort of play with whatever. But again, going back to anchoring, making sure that it is a landscape. And sometimes the works aren't, they aren't landscapes. They tend to be abstract. But it was important on this one to really make sure that it is a landscape. The friend of mine who I drew it, the area I drew it off his dock up in Georgian Bay, kind of got the sense that, yeah, I guess this is my cottage, but I'm not 100% sure. At that point, it didn't really matter, because it was about the vibrancy of those pinks and those yellows and the whites and that light just sort of cascading across the water.
Yeah, I think it's fine to paint something that somebody recognizes, but it's nice to build universality into your work as much as you can. That it gives you a wider breadth. You can move, and somebody in a different part of the country can still get an essence that they understand what this is about. It's like you said, it becomes ethereal a little bit. This gives me a feeling like I'm in the boat, and I've had it where you're banging against the waves and the spray of water comes up.
Yeah,
right through your vision, right? And you're looking through that spray of water to see the land that's across the way. And this is what this feeling gives me. That spray of water is that, and the light comes through that.
Yeah, it's a light coming through the trees. I mean, when you're looking, especially when you're looking at getting sunsets, or in the morning when the sun is coming through the trees, you sometimes have that kind of blinding light that you can't see. And this is, a lot of my works have that kind of blinding light. So I mean, is this light coming through the trees? Is it emanating in front of the trees, or where it is? And that's the question I throw out there for the viewer. I mean, you can decide whatever you feel.
Yeah, whatever you like. Yeah,
whatever you like.
Yeah, the pink though makes it, this one, it really makes it jump. It feels a little the abstractness of it. There's quite a I don't know. It's just it's quite.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. This one, by the way, so here's one. This is my ode to one of my heroes, Tom Thompson. Decided, this was a pandemic, I guess, canvas that I was in my studio, not being able to go anywhere, and I just started with a very quick, again, that gestural 1 or 2 lines. And I started to add color and paint, and it really looked like a landscape. And the Tom Thompson, this is his West Wind, one of his most famous paintings, and it just spoke to me. So if you can visually take the West Wind, those 2 paintings out, his iconic images, it's you're not too sure what it is, but you would reintroduce them back into visually back in, and it really has just something magical. Again, I just almost, it was calling out. It was like his spirit was calling out to put those two images into that work. And once they were there, to me, it was complete. It just had this, wonderful essence of the man who, created those wonderful works, the Canadian.
Yeah.
And that's what this painting just does for me.
Yeah. No, it's a great interpretation. Excuse me. And I guess it's a challenge when you start painting one of your heroes a little bit, you kind of, like you said, you had this thing, I've got to do it, right? There's just a sense in you. But if an artist actually picks up and says, oh, you really like another artist, but you want to do a painting of his painting without it looking like the exact painting, but you still understand what it is. And it's a great challenge, and I'll leave it like that. These become pieces almost where you want to keep them for yourself. You don't want to sell them sometimes.
Well, so of course, the gallery came and had a look at some of the works. This was the one painting hanging just not far from me now, hanging in the living room. My wife was just, oh, please, can we keep this one? And it was like, well, it's my job, it's my career. If somebody wants to buy it, we will sell it. But luckily, the gallery chose a few other works. So this is still hanging in my living room, and hopefully, it's one of my paintings that I may or may not sell it. We'll have to wait and see, but it holds a lot of memory, for me.
The price just goes up. The price just goes up, right?
Price just goes up, but at the end of the day, so the feeling that I get hanging with this painting hanging in my living room, if somebody had the same, sense of love that I have for this, I would give it to them. Of course, I'd sell it to them, but artists are. You look at a work of art, you do want to sell, of course. You want to make this a career, but you also want people to buy it, not as an investor necessarily, but somebody who really loves the work, who really gets the sense or the essence of what you wanted to create, and the joy that So if I found a buyer who wanted to buy this particular painting, who really understood what I was trying to create, by all means, give somebody else an opportunity to enjoy the work that I have the opportunity to do right now.
Yeah, it's nice that you see your work over to places that people, they haven't had it just thrown at them. They've actually wanted it, and they take care of it. These, some people call them like their children, but I think that's a little weird. But I think you do have an affinity to some more than others in your work, in your body of work. Some become the catalyst for other ones. You don't want to let them go because they inspire you to other pieces. And I have a few more small sketches than large ones, but I'll keep them around for a long time. And
and that's again looking at this work here, and this really brought that sense of light, and again, without the tree anchoring it, you kind of wonder really what is happening here. It's more of a horizontal. You look at, if you want to break it into the right side, it sort of looks like a landscape, but you're not too sure. It's not until you anchor the tree. And that was the last piece I put in. So I was looking at this work without those trees in it, and I knew it was going to be a landscape. I knew there's just, you can't even figure out why or where that light is coming from. Is it a fog across the water? You don't know. It's very abstract, but it was putting those two trees in that gave it the sense of, this is a really strong image. It's a really strong landscape. And again, you question what it is, how it got there. Is this fog? Is this light, or whatever it is? And that's, that's part of the questioning that I want to give the viewer. I'm not going to tell you what is there, and you need to get a sense of what this is for you. Is it fog running across the water? It could be. It could be fire. It could be whatever you want it to be, and that's a really important part of some of the works that I create, because it's really up to the viewer to make that decision.
Yeah, I think it's part of it, just giving them a feeling of location a little bit, and you've done that with Thompson Tree and some of that. So this is I find this one probably a little bit more definitive, right?
Yep.
I'll say definitive, because you can see the island, the rock outcroppings, and the water that moves in and around them. Beautiful piece. I love this little bit of reflection at the bottom, and it's not this glow of light in the middle of the page. You let the breathing, and I love the reflection of the water from the island in the water. Understanding that those little mark makings, they really settle that down. They in other words, your canvas isn't popping up flat. It still has a bit of depth to it,
Yeah, and interesting you brought that up, Paul, because those little dots that I put in the water were one of the last parts of that painting. So really, I was struggling with it. I was fighting with it. There was something missing. It did look flat, but I started to, and not all the works have that, but this one I thought, let's look at that reflection of the stone or whatever it would be in the water, and I started putting them in. Not a huge amount, but there was enough in there to give it the depth that I needed. But that was probably one of the last things I put in. It just wasn't working. And this is typical. This is probably more Canadian landscape, some of my works. And again, this is what, if you've been up to Georgian Bay, if you've been in the Point of Barrel, this is exactly what you see. And I wanted to, create that. But this, by the way, was the one work that did sell at Elaine Flex Gallery in the group show, prompting the show that I had. But so this was already there and it was sold, and it was a wonderful work. I really did enjoy it, and I know the owner who bought it really appreciated it.
So is this a 3 foot by 5 foot or 4 foot?
Yeah, it's 36 by 48 inches, so it's 3 by 4 feet. I've been, and most of the works, I'll be actually, my next stage of works will be larger. I prefer working large. Getting into the 4 by 5 or 4 by 6 foot is a natural kind of feel for me. And again, the larger they are, the more opportunity you have to really start, enjoying the complexity of the kind of works. And my works tend to work better larger. So I'm hoping that the next group will be a little bit larger than this 36 by 48, but it's a nice size. It really keeps you engaged.
Yeah, I tend to be constricted to 4 foot because it fits in my vehicle.
Well, listen, I'm no different. I look at, especially getting them, can they fit into the vehicle there? But I don't want to have to, I've painted, the largest painting I've done is probably about 8 by 16 feet, nice large canvas. And if you go onto my website, by the way, garycrawford.ca, you'll be able to see that. But I do like working larger, and it's every painting, has a sense of how big it'll be.
Yeah, no, we'll have all your links will be on this on our show, and people can go to that and go to your site and go that from there. Yeah, it's another one, probably a similar location as to the last painting.
Yeah, and I usually do my paintings 2 or 3 at a time. I have 3 walls at the studio, so I'll put them up, and I work with them at the same time. So you'll notice a lot of similarities in some of them because I've created one color of paint, blue, yellow, whatever it may be, and I'll use them. But they are, and it was similar. I mean, yeah, you're right. It was probably with that sketch I did, not far away from the other one. But fairly similar. This, again, looking at this particular painting, not as bright, not as vibrant. You don't have a lot of the colors in there, the vibrancy of color or the complementary. Little whiter, little lighter, feel I wanted to create from that, and just a little bit different. As I said, not as colorful, but when you look at the original, there's just something quietly pleasing when you look at it.
How thick does the paint get on this one, for instance?
Fairly thick. Again, this is one that I probably worked on quite a bit, 30 or 40 hours. But this would have been going through a lot of different reiterations where I think originally there was a lot more blue in the water, a lot more color in the sky. But for whatever reason, I just continued to put more white into that, lighten it up. So this would be a fairly thick painting. Again, when you're looking at some of the reiterations of it, ended up being a little different. And every painting, and you as an artist would know, Paul, they take on their own journey. You have no idea. You sort of get a sense of what you want to accomplish, but you don't know where it's going to end up. And this is one of those. I was a little surprised myself when I kind of went, okay, I like where it's going. And the finished product is a little bit different from the vibrancy of some of the others, but there's a real soothing quality about that. Once it's up on a wall, you have a real sense of calm looking at this particular painting.
Yeah, and I like how the sky bangs in down on the water. I mean, this one, the horizon line is a little askew, so you're not seeing cutting the page directly at the third mark. They're just they have it's a little quirky, odd and it almost gives you a feeling like you're on the top edge of the world. There's this rounded piece.
Yeah, I like that.
In cartography, they have that where they have the rounded part of the world. But yeah, that's a nice one.
So that is the last painting I have done. It'll be the first one in the show in July. And again, I struggled with this one. This is one that I almost lost a number of times. The bottom 2/3. Created that fairly quickly with the reflection, with the yellows and the blues. Where I struggled was in the land, the horizontal land. It just was not working. Was actually a lot lighter. And again, you just look at that and you look at that and you add a color here. You spend 2 hours doing this, and it finally came out. And this is one of those works because, Paul, it was the last one I had done. I quickly took it out of the studio. My wife said and my daughter, everyone said, Dad, it's done. Gary, finished. Get it out of the studio because we don't want you to work on this. This is one of those ones, well, I'll just put a little bit more here, a little bit more there. And I'm glad they forced me to take it out of the studio. The gallery loved it, but I hadn't got the sense that it was completely finished. Now that I'm looking at it as the viewer, I'm realizing it's a good thing I took it out of the studio because I think it works right now, just as it is.
Yeah, it's probably one of the ones that's closer to a nocturnal series or nocturnal painting that you did.
Yep.
Like the other ones are daytime types of images, and I said I could see your work real beautiful as a nocturnal series. That late sunset, they're very, very. You see very, I guess, little, right? You're dealing with large shapes that are on the darker format, but also have reflections on the water, and you're a real water and sky and land guy. Like, I mean, really, like water is really you. I mean, you really love water and what it gives back like a mirror, like. But the real energy is in the water in this one. It's this reflection that is, put on by the light in the trees and the things, and how the play is. It's beautiful.
And again,
it's really.
That's how important the name is. I was looking at this. What do I call this? I could have called it, water, land, sky. And it was just, but as much as it's a simple name, it really came to me like cloud pouring into water. This was to me just reflection. And once you read what it's called, you look at the reflection, you look at, of course, the water in the forefront, but it's really that light, whatever's behind that, the landscape. Is it a sunset? Is it a sunrise? It's hard to really tell. But it's the name is just as important, because it helps guide you. Sometimes my works are a little obtuse. It's hard to really figure out what they are, but and that's how important a name is sometimes. It's as simple as it is. Once the name came to me, because the gallery, everybody wants to know what's this called. And I went, well, it looks like a great reflection to me. And it went beyond just the term reflection. I think it really speaks to, what this work's about.
Yeah. Well, I think people get used to seeing your work though in the series. This one offers a real nice space between the daytime things, and this one's a little, like I said, a little richer, deeper color on some of the other ones, a little tighter stroke and line on these ones than the other ones. Some of the ones are a little broader strokes. So I think that variance helps, especially when you see a body of work on a wall. You go into a gallery and you'll see 20-year pieces and you go, boy, I could have any one of them, but I'd like this one more than that one because of the color variances, and I want something a little deeper. Sometimes just a feeling it changes. This one is almost getting ready to go to the campfire. Like there's just that there's a nice cottage country feeling about this piece as well. And this is one of the last pieces we have then.
Yeah, so that's an example. Again, when you're looking at, and it was intentional that I called. This is again one of the last pieces I did, water, land, sky, because it. This was the one, by the way, that if you can visually flip it upside down, I spent 90% of the creation of this painting looking at it upside down. So where the sky was actually the land. And the minute I flipped it over, I went, that's exactly what I'm trying to create. And again, it's very abstract. If I didn't call it water, land, sky, would you get a sense of, is that land there? Because it starts you break up the lines, you break up the form a lot more. But it's a little different. It's a little more abstract than the other ones. But again, it has that essence or that feel that I've been creating in all the other works.
Yeah, I can see your Doris McCarthy influence for sure in this one.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But again,
a lot of her stuff. It was a tough job. You're painting an awful lot of ice and a lot of, I guess, just landscape that's fairly minimalist from the north. And I get that feeling here where the sky and the foreground are the same, and you have this beautiful little outcropping that's in there. And this is a really gorgeous piece. It almost feels printmaking like. It almost feels like printmaking a little bit. This piece, you know, if you ever do mono printing, you can. It's a lovely way to define things very quickly as mono print, and it's easy to do. But I love this, Gary. What do you think there, Stephen?
I like it. I like all this stuff. It's all very interesting. So this is why we let Paul talk, because I just go, ooh, pretty colors. And people don't find that fascinating. I don't know why. So now here's my question I ask everybody, Gary. If somebody wants to buy one of your pieces of art, other than your link will be below, what's your price range from what to what?
So these canvases that you know, not all of them, but a number of them will be in Elaine Flex Gallery on Queen Street West in Toronto for all of July. So they'll be selling at $5,000.
Okay.
For those particular paintings, I do. And the other thing we haven't talked about, by the way, I do a lot of portrait work. So go into my website, garycrawford.ca. You look at portraits. So I do commission artwork. Now my portraits are total. It's another conversation, by the way, Paul. Maybe we can.
We might do that.
Not today. We've expanded a lot.
By the way, I need one. So I'm just saying, as you can tell, just to be a smart ass.
So they go. They average, as you said, you're on the $5,000 to $7,500 range. The paintings at this point. My hope is as I start now creating that price range will start to increase, of course. But you know that's where they're starting right now. You want any of the works that you've probably saw, go to the Elaine Fleck Gallery, or you can contact me and through my website, garycrawford.ca. My telephone, email, and all that is there. Please reach out to me, and we can work on anything. If you love the work, we can figure something out.
Cool. Very cool. And just so the audience knows, globally, it is Canadian 5,000.
That's Canadian.
So it's only $4.80 US. So it's not that expensive.
And for those investors out there, this is one of the again, I'm a mature artist. I'm in my 60s, but I haven't created a lot of work over a long period of time. Those prices will be going up, I think, over the next couple of years. So if you're on the investor side, you can get some really good deals at getting some good art right now before they start moving up.
Gary, you're trying to kill yourself off? I mean, like, it's like, listen, it's going to go up because we all know what happens.
We artists have a bit of ego. But I've been doing this for a long time. You know, I'm now at the mature part of my career. I'll keep my fingers crossed, but every indication suggests that as long as I keep pumping them out, keep producing them, they'll be selling.
Very cool. Well, that show is wonderful. If you can't figure out how to get a hold of Gary because his links are all below, because I know for some of you that's difficult, reach to the show and we'll put you in touch with Gary, and you can see his work and whatnot.
And you'll see Gary on Artists in Canada here shortly, and we'll get this all posted and cross promo.
By the way, Paul, I need to thank you. I got onto Artists in Canada, I think, about a year ago. You do great work promoting, supporting Canadian artists, and just wanted to thank you for that effort you do. I know it's a lot of work, a lot of commitment, and you do a really good opportunity to, I know a few artists on the Artists in Canada, and you give a good sense of what Canadian art is just through your website. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Cool. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Gary, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next Thursday with a surprise.
Okay.
Enjoy, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and like.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.